So Ben, let's start with this. I know you are sort of in a constant research mode, looking at what's happening in the market and what's going on. So tell us, I'm curious sort of what you're seeing in your research within organizations, like related specifically to employee engagement. What do you see as the biggest challenge or biggest obstacle that organizations are wrestling with right now?
So perfect timing. So this week we just came out with some new research on looking at reskilling and upskilling employees, and we asked a lot of questions around what it takes to, I guess, comparing reskilling to hiring outside. Like, what does that look like? And what we found is really interesting. Not only we've known for a long time, right? You and I both, again, working in HR, we know that employee career progression is an engaging thing for them. They want to develop, they want to grow, they want to learn, they want to follow their aspirations. And organizations that don't offer that, they're going to lose them.
Sure.
Gallup's data says that about 93% of the people that took a new job did so outside their company.
Sure.
Not taking one inside. And so they're missing a huge opportunity. And so this new research, we looked at the costs. We found is it's approximately half the cost to reskill someone for a job versus hiring externally. We also asked about the risk. 70% of learning professionals said less risk to bring that person up internally versus going out in the open market and playing some roulette. Yeah. And the last piece that really stuck with me from the research is we asked about what sort of value points, what comes out of that hiring that person versus, bringing that person up versus hiring them outside. What are the things that bring value for you? And the number one thing they came back with ties in perfectly with the conversation. They said that person is more likely to be engaged and bring that level of value into the new role versus, again, taking the risk on a new person, not knowing if they're going to perform well, not if they're going to fit the culture, like all those things that you're just not sure of until they get there and get their hands on the job and start working on it.
Got it. So the both sort of the challenge and the opportunity is how do we identify and develop and promote internally to create that structure. So what's the root of that problem, right? So is it because that seems like, I mean, probably it did to you too. Like, it seems fairly obvious when you look at it, like, well, of course, you have people there that you could train up, and that should be cheaper than going and hiring somebody new. Why do you think that's not happening right now, and what is the nature of where the solution needs to start?
So I'd say one of the biggest things, the hurdles to this actually being a reality because every company that sees those kind of metrics, like, yes, we want that. We want that for us. Right. But then it comes down to the implementation, and the managers are going to be the ones standing in the way. Maybe through no fault of their own, but managers don't want to feel like, hey, I'm losing this person because they're moving internally. Like, that was a good performer. I don't want them to leave me. I want to hold on to them. I want their performance to be on my team. So they're afraid to lose out on that. And I4CP did some research a couple years ago, and they called them talent hoarders, the managers that hold on to the people. And then what they found was organizations with a higher concentration of talent hoarders, the ones that said mine, 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 they're more likely not just to lose the people. We kind of know that. Eventually the people will chafe and leave. Yeah. They're more likely to be low performers in terms of market performance too, though. Like actual market metrics around profitability and revenue, things like that, they're more likely to be lower performers if they have a high concentration of those talent hoarders. So the managers are the key there. If we can get them, the simplest thing is just making them comfortable having a conversation with their people. What do you want to be? What do you want to do? Like making that just something they do as a regular part of every conversation they have with their people versus making it seem it's very formal, like once a year we're going to have our performance conversation and I'll ask you what you want to do next year and you better say you want to be on my team. Like, no one's going to answer you honestly if it feels that formal. But if you're just having this conversation one-on-one, we're having a talk, every couple of weeks about how things are going, what we're working on. Jason, what do you want to, how can I help you get to the next level? What do you want to be? Is there any development, what sort of things you're interested in? Just asking these basic kinds of things is a huge part of that.
Sure. So is it, as you have looked at this and thought about this, like, is it, like there's that conversation, there's the manager having that conversation. So there's the issue, at least as I'm hearing, like one of the biggest preventers is the talent hoarders, which is the managers or whatever, like holding on to people. If you can, sometimes that's incentive driven, right? I mean, like we're also incenting them, like if my bonus is attached to my team's performance, I don't want, like it's actually contrary to my best interest to let one of my best people go. So we have to fix that. Once you fix that, there's also though, like a structural issue, right? There's what does the career path look like, and how do and so I can know that you want to grow that career path, but then it's like, what do I do next? So how are you seeing companies address that?
So there's a couple really good case studies I could share. One of them that I love though is actually Chipotle. So the restaurants, quick service, they had this awful problem with turnover in their store manager population. So managers were turning over about 50% a year. And when you think about when you turn over the guy that scoots the guacamole, I can train another guy in 5 minutes to do that. No big deal. But the person that's handling the budgets, the person that's handling inventory, the scheduling, that is a key role for the business. And it costs them a lot of money to turn that over. So they made a decision, flipped the switch overnight and said, no more will we hire a great manager from somewhere else and try to bring them in here. We are only going to promote people from within to take on those manager roles. And going back to that incentive piece a minute ago, I'll touch on that in a second. But once they made that change, instantly their turnover cut in half. The people that were really excited about seeing this path ahead of them, like, hey, if I want to be a leader one day, there's a clear path for me. It's right there. But one of the things they did to help make it a reality is they talked to other leaders in the company and said, hey, Jason, you're a store leader already. You're a leader of this district, this area. If you develop Ben to be a leader and take over his own store, we're going to give you $10,000 in cash as a thank you for developing him. Because, again, it costs a lot more than $10,000 to be rotating through these people over and over and over again.
Sure.
And so they put some money behind it. And so when I'm talking to organizations that are thinking about how do we get into this, like how do we make this mobility thing a part of our culture and just part of how we run business every day, one of the things I come back to is like that story and say, hey, put some money behind it if you have to.
Right.
Give the managers some incentive to help the people grow. It's not about just shoving someone, just like referrals aren't about throwing someone in there that's not a good fit.
Right.
You're not going to push someone there because it's going to reflect badly on you. But if you can find one of those really great star people, those high performers that are just waiting to be discovered, like that superstar, help grow them, help develop them, then you get to benefit from that, and then the company benefits as well. So it helps everyone in the long run.
Yeah, and that, it's interesting because I'm assuming people hear that like $10,000, like if I took that to my leaders, they'd freak out.
Yes.
But you've got to build the business case because like the cost of the turnover in that manager population or whatever, like that is a small, it's not giving that money away, it's a reinvestment.
Yes.
And a small reinvestment of the money that they were already spending to replace anyways.
Yes, the opportunity cost of not doing that is much higher than $10,000.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what role, because I know you live in the world of technology, what role does technology play in solving this problem? Like how, if someone's thinking like, yeah, like this is resonating.
Yes.
What role does technology play and where does technology come in?
So one of the first roles for technology, so I always think back to when I worked in HR, I could never know the skills of every employee. Even if I wanted to, if I could know their spouse's name or whatever else, their kids, but I couldn't know the skills of every single person. And so we've got to use technology as the first layer of defense there to help understand what people can do. What are Jason's skills beyond just being an awesome interviewer? What things is he great at, right? Let's get really deep into that so that when we have this new project, this new opportunity, we can match you up with that and potentially fit you into this new role that's going to be your next step in your career. Sure. So understanding that piece of it, because otherwise you're always going to be shooting in the dark. You're going to be hoping for the best. There's another example of a company called Credit Suisse. They're 50,000 employees. They moved about 10% of their workforce last year, which is a ton of moving, lateral promotions, things like that. Yeah. And they did it because they're really, really clear on what the skills are. And so when their recruiters pick up the phone and they call someone to offer them a job, they're not calling an external candidate. The first person they call is an internal person to say, hey, we know your skills, we know your aspirations, which is another layer there. We know what you want to be and what you want to do. We know what your capabilities are. Here's a thing that is on that natural progression, and we want to see if you're interested in that. And more often than not, people are jumping at the opportunity to think, it's nice to feel wanted. It's even more nice to feel wanted by your own company.
So is it safe to assume that, technology makes that possible?
Yes.
But there was sort of an intention and a recognition and a strategy in place that probably led that technology decision that said, okay, we want to make sure we're maximizing on our internal talent and then deploying technology to actually make it happen.
Yes, absolutely. So I love the stories. I always go that direction. Yeah. The skill piece, being able to capture those, having some kind of taxonomy, getting really technical on what sort of skills model matters to your company. IBM did this a couple years ago where they built the skills model that every person needs to be developing these skills or we're going to have to find someone else that will.
Sure.
If they're not willing to do it in that direction, but the first thing they did is they laid it out there and let the employees know these are the important skills to us. Right. And within their learning system, they can track every single one of those and figure out if you're moving towards it or not. If you're stagnant, then we're going to prod you a little bit and then we'll find someone else that will do that.
Awesome.
So the technology is a big part of that for sure. That can also help you see what that career progression looks like. We can lay out our career paths and say, hey, between you're at point A, point B, you've got a 10% skills delta, and here's the gaps. And oh, by the way, here might be some training from our LMS, or here's a coach we can pair you with internally to help you close that gap. So there's lots of opportunities to use that to scale this up. Because on a one-to-one, I'm going to move you to one role, move that person to another role, that ad hoc kind of thing. You can do that without tech. It's just kind of gets done.
Yep.
But if you're going to be very strategic with it, the model we've built for maturity around talent ability, technology is the key piece of moving that highest level.
Awesome. Ben, thanks, man. Appreciate
Absolutely.
it. Good stuff.
Fun stuff.
Good stuff. Thank you.